So before getting to the text, you need to know around this place, St. Andrew, we preach in series. In other words, we preach in themes. We think of them, we design them, we pick the biblical texts. It's not better, it's not worse, it just works for us. There is another option that we don't employ. It is a 3-year series that a bunch of people who don't work here, probably in Chicago, where headquarters, they thought of years ago. And the only reason I'm bringing this up is that we're in between series. For those of you who are not keeping score at home, we just wrapped up Facing Giants, and next week we begin a brand new, life-altering, exciting, phenomenal series called Party Time. Yes, Lutherans, believe it or not, we're going to party. Not like Baptists, but we're going to party like Lutherans. So you might be wondering, was this on purpose? Yes, it was. I actually do this stuff for a living, and here's what I was thinking. I did not want to either end a series or begin a series on the weekend that houses 4th of July, because apparently you don't own a cabin, and neither do I. Nor do we know anyone who likes us enough to invite us. So I decided to do something different. And so I went to this lectionary. It's in our hymnal. And I thought, why not just go and do it one time? And the text is, whoever welcomes you, says Jesus, welcomes me. Whoever welcomes a prophet, whoever welcomes a righteous person, who gives even a cup of water, gets a God star. Did you see what I did there? Not a gold star. Now, there's one thing you need to know is that this is cherry picking. In other words, if we're doing what we're supposed to be doing, we're talking about this last week, but we're rebels. And so we can't just go into this. I have to tell you what happened before, and I kind of have to say where this is going. Got it? Good. So Jesus gets his disciples together and says, I need you to be my missionaries. So I want you to go out. You can heal people. You can cure them, which had to be cool. But also, I want you to know you're going to go out and talk about me, and some people are not going to receive you well. Some will probably tongue lash you. Some will probably beat you, and you might even be threatened with death. Just letting you know, says Jesus, this might get a little dicey. Now, just in case you think I'm taking liberties here, because, I kind of have that vibe. In verse 16, Jesus says, see, I'm sending you out like sheep into the midst of wolves. So be as wise as serpents and innocent as doves. Oh, I almost forgot, says Jesus. We're leaving like now, so get your stuff together. Now, here's my best guess, is there had to be a few who at least thought to themselves, so we're supposed to just go now? Can we take a little time to think about this? Jesus says, no. Now, here's a thought I had this week, is that I was thinking that you are always supposed to personalize the text. And so I'm thinking that if Jesus came to me and said, David, I want you to follow me, I'd say, yes. And then I'd think about, I have to go home and tell my wife. And it would go something like this. Hi, honey, you look great. Thank you. You know I love you, right? Yes, I love you too. What's up? Funny thing is, I'm leaving for quite some time. Is it for work? Tangentially, yes. Actually, literally, I'm not going to work at St. Andrew. I'm going on the road with Jesus. Oh, so at least you're not going golfing. No, I'm not going golfing again. But what would you say? It's a non-paying gig. And we have a daughter who's going to be a senior at St. Olaf, and we have a son who's going to be a first year at Gustavus. And before I would say to my wife, the Lord will provide. You see what I'm saying? What Jesus asked was Herculean. But then in this text, and I think it's the beauty of Jesus, realizing that not all things are for all people, Jesus says, even if you give someone a cup of cold water out of kindness, you're doing my work. Can you at least do that? Now, because you are the faithful people here, the people who are not here, who have a cabin, they're unfaithful and they haven't come to worship. So I'm going to break from tradition. I usually have 3 points. Yes, I'm going to do you kind people a favor. I am going to make a motion that I only have 2 points. All in favor, say aye. Aye. Opposed and you want 3 points, say aye. Thank you. First service, I got butt kiss. So if I'm going to be full of resentment, I'll just go back to my last sermon, which is on our channel, about resentment, and I'll learn how to forgive all of you people for being so unkind. Point number 1, witnessing through work. I want to tell you about our refrigerator hero by the name of Todd. Real guy, that's his name. I didn't change his name. Now, I'm not going to tell you the company he works for, because last week you might remember I said something about McDonald's and the quality of their food, and I'm still wondering whether or not they're going to call me. So I'm not going to say the name of the company, but I will tell you that all of a sudden our refrigerator stopped making ice, and the water took about 17 minutes to fill a cup. And so I pay every month to have this maintenance program, so I called up and said, can you come over and make our life better? Because when you don't have ice, your life is not worth living. No, seriously. It's a muted existence. So I called them, and they come between 8 and 4. Isn't that great? That you pay them, and they want you to quit your job. So I'll just sit here and kind of go, well, I don't have ice, I don't have water, but I'll wait for you. And all this is true, and I'll redact it because I want to go home too. That he showed up, and he walked into our kitchen. He looked at our behemoth refrigerator, and he said, oh, those are complicated. I don't know how to fix those. And I thought, oh, sweet baby Jesus, you're our guy. I'm not kidding. He looked and he said, we had a class about that, and I didn't understand anything. And you know me, right? It's really hard to be unlike me, that I wanted to say something. And I'm telling you the gospel truth, that he said, I'm going to go into the van for a while, and he was there for 40 minutes. And I thought, I've been abandoned. I can't fix that. I'm leaving. But he was out there, static. And he came in and said, I watched a video, and I thought, good. And he said, I still don't know what to do. But he was nice about it. I mean, I would like him to be our son's friends. I mean, if our daughter wasn't dating, he was a nice chap, but he didn't know what he was doing. And he said, I'm going to defer to someone who will come the next time. Please call. So I did. I waited for the time to come. Waiting for the phone call. And you know what? Who came in the front door? The same dude. Well, I think I know what to do. I got a part for you that you ordered and you paid for. So I'm going to put it in. I thought, well, good. I'm glad you got smarter in the last 10 days. He put it in. Nothing really changed. So you call up again because I have it on speed dial. Someone else come to the house, and it was a different person. I was like, hello, you're not the same person. And he looked and said, well, I think I can make this work. You think I can make this work? Ordered a part. He left. I had to call again. I'm older now. The part comes. He comes back. He puts it in. He says, well, it should work now, I think. That's it. 3 days later, I'm living my life, and all of a sudden, I hear this sound that is beautiful. It is ice cascading down into this plastic bin. And I'm like, thank you, whoever you are. Let's try the water. Water's not better. We're halfway there. I call again because I have their number. Guy comes to the door. He rings the bell. And I say hi, and his name is Todd. Any of you football fans, any of you know PJ Fleck? Do you know how excited he is? This, I think, is his friend. He was so excited. I'm Todd, and I'm like, I'm not that excited to see you. Because we have developed a relationship, not a good one. And after all this malaise, and here I don't just say things for no reason. This person wasn't happy with that entity. And Todd looked at me without me saying a word, and he said, I am so sorry, sir, that you have had to come here time and time again, and it doesn't seem to be getting better as we want. I promise you that I will fix your problem, no matter what. So everyone look at me right now. What Todd did was not only kind, it erased every bad feeling I had about all the others who probably were not malicious, but they certainly did not meet the mark. Todd made it all better. He ordered parts for us, said, let's just make this right. It's you and me. Here's my cell phone number. I will call you personally when I'm going to come over. You're going to what? Todd's my refrigerator hero. My point is, if you have a job, be Todd. You can go in and say, well, I'm sorry I can't do that. You know what? It's not a big deal. It's not life or death. But we want it fixed. And if you don't take it personally, if it's not something important to you, then you don't value me. And then, I want you to watch this, if you're not into refrigerators.
We received a claim about a lost ring. We could have just written a check, but I really felt for them.
I'm looking for someone to get me into a grave. Hold on. It's very heavy.
You need this?
Yes, I do.
I was about to give up. And then, I spotted it.
Will you please not lose this ring again?
Yes.
Yeah?
Remarkable things happen when people care. Travelers.
My thanks to Travelers who gave me permission because I didn't want to actually look for their phone number coming up on my... I was watching golf last weekend and I saw this. So who says you can't do your work when you watch golf? But whether it be Todd or this inspired by a true story, even if you volunteer, do it with zest. You know that Walmart and other places like that used to have greeters, and now they've morphed into security. No one even says hi to you anymore. They're just there to check your stuff. We're lacking in kindness. We're lacking in people who say, you come to me, whether I'm your doctor or your police or whomever, and you know what? It has to be mutual respect, but it begins with the person saying, how can I help? Especially if you're in the service industry. Point number 2, just be kind. I don't have to give examples of how callous and uncaring society has become. It's easy to feel overwhelmed. It's tempting to think that there's nothing we can do that will make a difference. Now, by all means, if so compelled, bear witness to Jesus with words. We are called to tell people that Jesus loves them. Jesus is the way, the truth, and the life. Yet at all times, in all places, and with all people, the very best thing we can do is to be kind. Now, I want to say to my new friend Neil Ford, neilford.com, I saw a TikTok, because I was working then too, and then I reached out to him through Kathy at the front desk, and I want to say a shout out to Eden Prairie residents and friends of Neil, Renee and Maddie Rodriguez. I think he's in New York or some big city, and he said, Eden Prairie, small world after all, Disney's right. And this is actually the genesis of my sermon. Watch and enjoy.
I was in a little cafe, sitting at the counter, and 2 college girls were waiting for a booth when a father and daughter came in. The little girl was maybe about 4, dressed head to toe like a Disney princess, complete with the tiara. And while they were waiting, the college girls knelt down and asked, "Are you Sleeping Beauty?" And the little girl very shyly nodded, and they said, "May we have your autograph?" And they pulled out a notebook, and she gave them both a flourish with the pen. And when a booth finally did open up, the girls insisted that the father and daughter take it. And then the only open seats were at the counter next to me, and so the gals took those, and I remarked to them what a sweet thing that was to do, the autograph and letting the father and daughter have the booth. And one of the gals said in an Italian accent, "My grandfather would have wanted me to do that." And I said, "Yeah, what's the story there?" And she said that her grandfather had been a little boy in Italy during World War II. And after the war, one of the American GIs that had been stationed near their village was sort of famous for all the little courtesies that he would perform for the villagers. Little favors and little gifts and little fixes to things, and he just left a smile wherever he went. And they nicknamed him Reno, which I guess was short for rhinoceros, because not only was he stocky, but he had a very big nose. And anyway, she said that after the war in Italy, a lot of scores got settled between civilians, sometimes political, sometimes personal. And her grandfather's family had been on the receiving end of some armed men who'd come about some old vendetta, and that the only thing standing between the family and these armed men was the American GI. Now, normally the villagers might have minded their own business, but the young Reno had become so popular with the town that they formed a wall around him as he protected the family. And I guess this had the effect of making it look like the family was under the protection of both the U.S. Army and the entire village. And the young woman that told me this story said that her grandfather believed that what had saved the family was what he called l'eco de piccole gentilezze, the echo of small kindnesses. And that when she was in America, her grandfather said she should never leave a room without leaving behind a smile. And while we were talking, she had been diligently folding this little piece of paper to leave behind one more.
So, my thanks to Neil. I was thinking this week that we have all this intelligence. AI is on the foreground, the background. We have all this intel. We seemingly know more, but we also seem to be less kind. And I think, can I have your autograph? I thought to myself, I don't know the way the society is now, that somebody walks into a restaurant, and if you have stranger danger, would someone even feel like they can go up to a child and say, can I have your autograph? And maybe we're so worried about being misinterpreted. I used to wear a Roman collar. I used to have a collar. We don't wear them as much around here anymore, but I'll tell you this much, that with all the scandals that were afoot in the larger church, I got to the point where if I had a Roman collar on, and if I was at Target or I was at Walmart and I saw a child and I was going to be friendly with that little child, there was part of me that didn't want to do it because, well, you know. And we get to the point where I think we're so cold and impersonal that we're not kind and friendly. I went to go see my dad in Jamestown. I said that last week, and I was walking down the street. I was getting a pizza, and I thought that people knew me. When I'm in Eden Prairie, if people say, hi, how are you? I know that they know me or I know them. In a smaller town, even in Jamestown, North Dakota, circa 30,000 people, I saw these people, and I thought, there's something wrong with these people. They say hi to me, even though they don't know me. That you say, if you see a princess or if you see a little boy or girl dressed up as a superhero, you say, can I have your autograph? Because that's the beauty of having it on. Or go ahead and take that booth. If you and I are at a restaurant and we're waiting, but you know our time is of course precious, but if you see someone with a couple of little kids and they're climbing the wall and climbing the mom and dad, then we ought to do the kind thing to say, go ahead, you can take my place ahead of you. But I really do think we live in a world now that everyone's so entitled and everyone's so impatient that, oh, well, you should have gotten here sooner. You feel me? Or I will fix your refrigerator no matter what it takes. Hero Todd, next time it breaks, I'm going to hold out for him. I will surround and protect you. Isn't that what Neil talked about with Reno? The echo of small kindnesses. Never leave a room without leaving a smile behind. So on Saturday, and I've always told you that when I preach to myself first. Sooner or later, before I retire, I actually may become civilized. But I was going on a bunch of errands. I had to go to the bank. Well, that was fun. And then I had to do another thing, and I had to do another thing, and I ended up at Brugger's. And I thought, well, because it was now 10:30 in the morning, it was just going to be me and a bunch of bagels, and the line was out the door. And I was like, oh, this is great. Does everyone eat bagels at the same time in this town, I thought? But the good thing about when you have your mouth open and when you talk about the Word of God and how you live out your faith in daily life, and when it's now recorded, you also know that you have to practice what you preach. So I'm standing in line, and there's a woman behind me, and we start talking. Because I thought, you know what, I can just stand here and huff and puff. What I don't understand is how long some people take to order a bagel. I have to editorialize. It's like it takes forever. It's like just put an egg on it and go. Yeah, but I digress. And so she and I are talking about this, that, and the other thing. We're talking a little bit about current state of affairs. She's talking about her husband and what she's going to do when she goes home. And I'm thinking to myself, we were there for like 15 minutes. I'm not kidding. I kind of timed it. And I hope she didn't go home and say, well, there was this weird guy at Brugger's who wouldn't shut up. But I think she enjoyed it. And you know what? Who else did? I did. We're surrounded by people, especially where we live. And especially if they're in the same lot of life, and most of the time they are, because they have the same pressures, they have the same consternations, they have the same joys and sorrows. And if you're standing in a line, you might as well just be kind and have it go better. And so my homework for you this week is, if you have a job, may you do it with a little bit more of a kick and a get along. Help people, go beyond. I try to make sure that when I'm here and someone will come up to me and say, do you have time for? The answer is yes. The answer is yes. Unless I'm doing a funeral, the answer is yes. Because if you or someone else says, no, I don't have time, what does that say? Now, we can't fix other people. We can't fix unkind people. We can't fix the entire world. But what I love about this is that Jesus redacts it down and says, even if you give someone a glass of water, literally or metaphorically, you are doing my work. One last thing I'd say. When school is in session and when you call and you get a receptionist because you can get a live person, make sure that you speak to that person with the same respect as you would the principal or their superintendent. Because sometimes in life we treat people according to their station in life. I think what Jesus is saying is that it's all people. So when you and I meet someone, whoever welcomes you welcomes me. Would you do that to Jesus? Is that how you talk to Jesus? No, really, is that how you would treat Jesus? The person who drops off the mail, the people who take our garbage. I think it is so great that there are people who come to our house and they take away our garbage. Yes, we pay them, but all you have to do is wheel it down there. Write a note to the people. I want to write a note to the one carrier who brings things to our house, who actually notices that we have 2 pillars so you can hide our package behind it. It's a brilliant move. I am not going to leave a note for the other people who leave it right there so everyone can see it. But especially for a job that's well done, thank them. But this week, as you live out your faith in daily life, always, always, always strive to be kind. The person that might soften is actually you. So help us God. You're adorable. Amen.